Okay, item number 2 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness. It's 233-33 38th Drive in Douglaston Historic District, docket number 14-4585, block 8059, lot 25. And this is an application to construct a new house on a vacant lot that was created by a subdivision.
Morning, Commissioners. Lisa Schaefer, Preservation Staff. The application for 233-33 30th Drive is to construct a new house on a vacant lot. This is the lot right here. It was subdivided off of this lot here. And I just want to give you some background on the site and the street. This is actually the end of the district here, and the houses that are not shaded are not in the district. So these are in the district here, this is in the district, and this is a house that the commission approved in 2008, which is over here. So that's actually, other than these houses which are outside of the district, the only house presently on the block. And here's this is the site here, and this is the house that the commission approved in 2008. So I will hand this over to the architect to go into the proposal. Statement. Statement. Yeah.
Yes, hello, my name is Paul Munoz. I'm the principal architect of Architects Rule PC in Bayside, Queens, where I have my small practice. I chair the Architectural Review Board out where I live out on Long Island in the village of Petticoat Harbor. So I'm a little sensitive to historic homes and areas. I have a client that walked into my office about a year ago, who is here today, Mr. Hunt, and he fell in love with Douglaston, and he currently lives in Rego Park in an apartment, and he works in Manhattan and as an accounting firm, and so he's looking to bring his family to enjoy Douglaston. So here we are. He actually brought a picture and from a trip upstate New York, and he asked if we could do something similar. This is the picture. Let's see. And in essence, we tried to replicate his request, his vision for his home, for both, for his wife and himself, and the two children. We've proposed a two-story framed residence here, and 4 bedrooms on the second floor. As you can see, we have a brick facade with cast stone elements, pilasters, and let's see what else. Okay. This one. And one other thing before I switch over here. The owner did come to the board, off the record, he came and he just posed to a couple of people for a general consensus if what he was trying to do was something that might get through the board here. So he understood that with certain changes to what he originally thought, it might work. So that's why we're here today.
Who did he come to talk to?
I'm sorry?
Who did he talk to? I didn't understand what you said. You said the owner came to speak with someone?
Just as he wanted to get a general consensus of what he was trying to do.
But from whom?
I don't-
Oh,
that-
what age, with the Landmarks Commission or?
Landmark Commission.
Oh, okay,
Must, I think, right?
Yeah.
Must.
okay.
All right, so I think your point is that he wanted to show something, get some feedback from us, and recognize that there may be
Yes, that's all I
changes.
was
Okay,
saying.
all right, so why don't we move on
No
to,
names, no nothing.
okay.
All right, so basically, these are the homes in the vicinity, and you have Bamboo, which is not indigenous to the area, but it's right on the corner, right over there. And the lot is basically empty. You have, this is the adjacent house, and basically that's it. I mean, it's going to be a brand new house that hopefully, will be part of the neighborhood and blend in with the,
Maybe you can speak to, I know that you said your client has, took a photograph of a building upstate, and he wanted you to replicate that. Can you speak to some of the buildings, maybe not this particular photograph, but some of the, maybe page 5, where you can identify some of the features of the historic district? Okay. Right, that, are there, I'm assuming that some of, these are the homes in Douglaston, right? So some of these features you've tried to incorporate into your design.
So can you talk about what it is? Can you talk about what the characteristics are of these buildings and then how they relate to the building you propose?
well, first of all, as you can see, you have other facades that use brick, and the style that the owner wanted was like a Georgian revival. And as you can see, it's you have another example of this type of home. And when he went up, his vision was to, when he saw this house, he actually asked the owners if he could go in and to the house that I showed you. He was so in love with it. And so basically, after looking at the area and going through these pictures and everything, it seemed that it wasn't out of character to put this Georgian revival home on this property. And so there, as you can see, there are examples of this type of style. And to be honest with you, the other thing, it's one of the Three Little Pigs houses. He wanted the brick house where he felt secure and protected for his family. So that's why that style, it's
So if you look at the decorative details on these houses and then yours,
well,
how do they relate?
Yeah, the design on the house that we're proposing has a little bit more intricate in its, in the detail, very similar to what you had seen, but the materials are genuine. There's nothing that is being used that is man-made, so to speak, such as cultured stone. Somebody might use cultured stone or use the styrofoam for the
Okay.
the types of.
And Michael?
In your research before you started the design, did you look through pattern books that would have been close to the building that your owner was interested in for Georgian or Georgian revival details?
Well,
Did you do any research to study proportion and things of that sort?
yeah, actually, I don't have the exact names of the individual examples that we used, but some of the details for the cornice and whatever, we
Why don't you go to the shot that has all the
Yeah,
other
we
buildings
went,
on it?
we went and from photographs that we had seen and whatever information we could get on the accuracy of the details of the proportions and scale of the frieze, yes, we did. I don't have an example of it.
All right.
We used various samples because when the owner came in, he had nothing other than a picture for scale. So,
I just want to comment on the issue of the photograph that I know that they want to emulate that house over here. I think it's in a historic district, so those features that you may find in those homes may not translate necessarily into this historic district. And while I think that the shape and form of the home is similar to other homes, but I am concerned at the details that you've incorporated here, and whether, it seems that you started off your presentation saying that you'd be open to the ideas of modifying that, but it seems that some of these features, at least in combination and put on the facade that I see here, is, I find somewhat detracting from some of the other homes. I think it's heavy, and even if you want to continue to have brick, I think brick is a material that is consistent with other homes in the area. You maybe really want to restudy some of the architectural features that you've kind of put on the facade. At least that's my thinking on it. Yes.
I think my thinking is as well. I think the massing of the house is appropriate within the neighborhood. The brick is appropriate within the neighborhood, but almost every detail that's added to this brick house is somehow puffed up, too large. You just have to rethink the size of the balustrades on the sun porches. Even it has a generic quality, I think, that needs to be refined more. So I think all the elements are just too large and needs to be reworked.
Diana, and then Roberta.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Fred. I think the bulk, the style, the materials, quality are all fine, but the ornamentation has really, if you look at the other pictures, the other houses, they have a kind of quiet dignity, and they are very nice, and I'm sure that this one will be as well. But right now, it's doing what we always say shouldn't happen, calling attention to itself within the environment. It's the ornamentation is a little too prominent and a little too overdone. Just, it needs to be, we would say, toned down a bit.
Tone down, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think you know, I expect it could come back right away for,
Right.
you know,
Yes,
approval.
I also think that in terms of scale, as was mentioned before, it seems out of scale.
I think it's not. I
It seems
think it's,
grander in.
Are you talking about the scale of the building massing, or?
About the building massing, for instance, if
I'm
you
not
look
sure.
at on page
I'm
2,
not so sure.
the size of the building, at first I thought it was another scale,
Mm-hmm,
but it's the same scale as the house next door, I think.
mhm.
in
right.
terms of
But then you have lot,
It just looks,
Yes.
for some reason,
Yeah.
it looks much larger. And it may be materials, but it's also maybe the height or something. Somehow the massing makes it look like a house that takes up a lot more lot than it really does.
I wonder if it's the fact that they've continued, you have the garage, it's attached immediately to, it's recessed, right?
It's recessed, but it just reads bulkier, larger, grander than I think these photographs suggest.
Lot 22 is a big house.
I know. The next lot. So
Yeah.
the adjacent house, which we approved, is slightly smaller, but then the next one, in terms of at least width, is much larger.
Also, lot 20, whatever that is, 5 is a very narrow lot compared to this one. So,
I think the bulk is not out of character for this district. It's
think-
just the way it presents itself that's causing it to look, right?
Right.
So I think if it's toned down, yeah.
Okay, yes, Marjorie.
So, I agree that the bulk is probably in line more or less with the district. I think that though the gabling and the dormers are also not in proportion, so if we include that in embellishment, I mean, if you just look at how the gabling sits on the examples within the district, the proportions really flow from the form of the house. So I think that needs to be restudied as well. The other thing that's notable from the elevation of the adjoining properties is they're all built on some kind of terracing, on some kind of a hill, and this site is completely flattened out. And based on the other application we just saw where it's quite hilly terrain, I think kind of dropping the house down on a flat platform is probably not consistent with the district, but
I would only suggest that they look at the existing topography of the site, and if it does have a natural terrain which is sloped, then is there a way to incorporate that as to... It's a flat site?
flat site, okay, okay.
It doesn't get much flatter, quite honestly.
Okay, and then the other thing is, I just sort of quickly Googled.
However, you can treat, I mean, we don't want to go into landscaping too much, but you can treat the front yard in a way which suggests a slope. if you-
Yeah,
if you
or,
would.
or lifts the house a little bit to give it a little bit more of a, I don't know, a presentation. There's steps up on all of these houses. I mean, there's something sort of grand about them. But the other thing is, if you just Google Georgian Revival, you'll see literally thousands of examples if that's where you're going. And I think that will inform how you go about detailing a Georgian house, but it's not just that they have this kind of quiet grandeur. The detailing is really, really minimal except for one spot, like the entryway or the gable above or something. And the windows are very, very subdued. They're minimally decorated. And so I actually think that the magazine from which your client pulled the image, though maybe fine in wherever that place was, you can't really do that. You can't really import a house from Connecticut or wherever and put it into a historic district that has character has specific character-defining features that make the historic district what it is. You really need to look at the district and draw from that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right, we'll have more discussion, but why don't we take public testimony? Barbara Zay?
Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. HDC generally finds the design of this new house to be contextual to the Douglaston Historic District. However, the monumental scale of the double-height corner columns gives the structure an institutional rather than residential character. If scaled down and produced of wood rather than plaster, HDC could find them a more appropriate component of the design. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers on this item? All right, Community Board has recommended approval. However, they note that the spindles of the first floor railings seems rather heavy and bulky, and the committee suggests a thinner spindle design be used. All right, if there are no other speakers, we can close. We can. Right. Yes, so we'll close the hearing. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. It seems that I think for most of us, the scale of this building in terms of its shape and form seem reasonable and appropriate and consistent with the character of the neighborhood. I think all the commissioners have expressed concern about the features itself and the details, and even the scale of the gables vis-a-vis the columns. I don't know whether we want to start picking at each feature right now. I think we'd like to give you an opportunity to come back and look at this. But I think our direction to you is to really study some of the homes and the facades in the district and look at, as one of the commissioners says, its simplicity or its grace or its understatement as cues to design the facade over here. I think all of us feel it's very opulent, it's very heavy, it may seem more institutional. I think there are many ways you could look at this. You can rethink the columns themselves, because I think that's very distracting. You could rethink the windows and the arches, and you could rethink the gables as well. And there's probably something that you could find that the commission will support. Okay?